Well, here we are again. Good morning. This is another one of those times, y'all. Good morning to all of you. And listen, this is another great day. It's Monday Mental Real Estate with yours truly, Dr. Michael Freeland. Oh my goodness. Why am I in this seat once again? Because you know what? It's that time. This is that time for us to build into this perspective that we have, that we know as Monday Mental Real Estate. And what does this mean for you? I can't tell you just yet, but I'm getting right to it. So before I get to that, let me ask you, how was your weekend? How was your time with your family? We just came off of one of the great experiences of having Thanksgiving with seeing loved ones we haven't seen in a while, spending time with people that we love and that we care for. And you know what? It's reciprocated because people will give you exactly what you put out. And even if you don't deserve it, they'll be happy to see you anyway. So let me ask you, how was your weekend? I hope everything was great, splendid. I hope that everyone had a great time and ate too much and slept too much. Did you hear that? I hope you ate too much and that you slept too much. But let me get to this, because mental real estate, talking about the positive and negative contributors to your mindset. And what does that mean for you? Absolutely everything. Today is no different as we get ready to share some things about life to help you build into the perspective that you have and understand more about you and what you're coming and where you're coming from in your mental real estate. So this is truly an honor to speak to you. This is Dr. Michael Freeland, here to talk to you about some of the most important things that matter in life. In today's life perspective, let me get right to it, because you guys know I love life applications. Now let me ask you the question. Do you remember your first place? Woo-hoo-hoo. Now let me ask you, I'm talking about as you get older, as you grow up. Now think back for just a second. I don't know how old you are. I don't know how dated you are, but let me ask you the question again. Do you remember your first place? Now I'm talking about that first place when you decided it's time for me to move out from mom and dad's home. It's time for me to get something of my own, because you remember, as we get a certain age, we don't like to listen like we used to. We don't want to just do what someone tells us. We want to set our own standards and our own rules. So we need to get our own place. So the question today is, do you remember your first place? Now, let me tell you about mine. Oh, my God, this is crazy. Let me tell you about mine. The first place that I lived in Topeka, Kansas, when I moved out at the age of 20, I got my own spot. Now, my mom gave me some real important information. She said, if you're going to do this, now let me help somebody real quick before I dig in, because I want people to get this, because a lot of times when you think of your first place, a lot of times people are thinking about having a roommate, aren't they? They say, you know what? Hey, would you like to get with a place together with me? If you have a job and I have a job, together with our income, we have enough money to get ourselves a place. Now, I'm getting ready to tell y'all, I'm about to date myself. Don't y'all judge me, but I'm about to tell you the truth. Now, I got my first place when I was 20. I worked 3 jobs. I DJ'd at the skating rink. I worked at Taco Tico, and I was a car hop at Sonic. And man, let me tell you, I worked all the time, and I would put my little money in that little jar until I had enough to get me in place. Me and my brother sat out, and I paid my first deposit on my first place with tip money. You hear me? I'm talking about quarters, nickels, and dimes. Back when you had to roll them in them sleeves, we was stuffing them, trying to get it together. But let me tell you about this place. It was a Garlow. Now, those of y'all that don't understand what a Garlow is, let me break this down to you real quick. This is a garage that somebody converted into a home. So it is not really that big. Now, let me tell you about this Garlow. Oh, my goodness. Woo! It had a door. It had a room. And it had a room attached to a room. And it had a bathroom attached to the room. I don't even want to go into all of that, because you know what happened is that it was my place. And I think I was more important to have my place, because I was willing to do what it took to have something that belonged to me, something that I can say I did for myself because I worked so hard to obtain it. Now, what is it about this first place? It was not, in other people's mind, they would walk in my place and say, what in the world is this? What do we have here? And you know what I would tell them? Respect my place. Now, not only that did I have somebody respect my place, I took care of that place. Now, let me tell you, you would open up the sink to see where all your cleaning supplies was. It was a hole in the ground, y'all. I'm not lying. I'm telling you the truth. It was not the standard place you would walk into and see nice cabinets and nice floors and nice countertops and all. It was a place. to stay. But it was my place. So I took care of my place. And when people came to my house, I made them listen. It's funny because I would have furniture. I would have nice little tables and stuff. And when they came to my house, I would tell them, don't forget to get a coaster. Yeah, put your drink on the coaster. And they would look around and say, what is this? Yeah. But I love my place. Now, let me tell you something else, because my place was small. And it wasn't that big, but it was something that I worked for and something that I earned. And I was proud of this place, so much so that I would run people off for coming over and disrespecting my place. Now, let me talk about this, because this is Monday Mental Real Estate, and we're talking about the place. We're talking about your perspective and your thoughts. So let me dig into this mindset, because a lot of times in our mental real estate, I want to be very real and candid with you today. We have a tendency to jump over things. Let me say this again. We have a tendency to jump over things. Now, what do I mean by that? Do y'all remember the days of when you would go to school, or even when you was just grown and you would go to the track and you would decide to run those steps? Do you remember running those steps? Not just at the track. Do you remember going up the steps when you was at work, having to go up that fire escape? Do you remember taking those stairs when you was going up from the basement to the front to the top level? Now, if you can remember those days, now let me ask you, because this is going to hurt. Do you remember those times when you took those steps and you decided to skip a step? Do you remember when you decide, I'm going to take 2 or 3 steps so maybe I can shorten up my steps so I can get to the top? And when you took that step, have you ever stepped on that foot, on that step, and you know what? Your foot slipped and you bladed your shin. Oh my God. Now let me ask you again. I said, because if you've ever bladed that shin, you know what I'm talking about, how that feels. It feels like somebody just ripped the skin off the front of your leg. And oh my goodness, if you've never felt pain before, you skip that step. Now let me tell you, in your mental real estate, a lot of times people are interested to get to the top. A lot of people are anxious to take that move. A lot of times people are trying to get there because they see the vision ahead of them. They see the vision ahead of them, but they don't see the step underneath them. Let me say that again. They'll see the step ahead of them, but they don't see the step underneath them. And a lot of times when we want to hop up, when we want to take that next step, when we want to jump to that next level, you miss that step. And what happens when you miss that step? Your foot hits just the tip of it. Boom. And it comes off. And guess what happens? You blade that shin. Woo, but when them shins get bladed, let me tell you, it hurts. Worse than anything you ever felt. It hurts. Now, let me tell you why it hurts. Because a lot of times you're not meant to skip that step. There's a process to this life that we live that people got to understand when it comes to the life that you live and the ones that you want to give and how you share it. Because let me tell you, I just got done telling you about my first place. Do you remember your first place? Now, that's funny, because if you think about what your first place was then to where you are right now, you would see clearly that there is a clear-cut difference in the way you live now. Now, why is that? Because for some of you, it took 10 years. Some of you, it took 20 years. Some of you, it took 30 years. Because what I'm saying to you is that what you got to understand is that there was a step to get from your first place. Let me make this as plain as I can, because I want you to understand what I'm saying to you this morning. We're communicating now. It's better to have a small foundation and live big than to have a big foundation and live small. I hope you caught that today. Let me say that again, because it's better to have a small foundation and live big than to have a big foundation and live small. How many times have you driven by somebody with that big, beautiful, fancy house? I mean, it looks great, the trimmings and everything, but when you drive past their house, they got a 76 Toyota outside. And it doesn't mean that it's not intentional. Let me tell you, I'm taking up for him a little bit. It doesn't mean it's not intentional. But let me tell you something else. How many times have you seen somebody in the caddy shack? Do y'all remember the caddy shack? How many times have y'all seen anybody in the caddy shack, but yet still they got a Cadillac parked outdoors? There's a difference there. When your foundation is set, you can direct the directive. When your foundation is set, you can understand exactly, because as I was taught before, live within your means. Do not step outside of what you mean to live like. Because what I'm saying is a lot of times in your mental real estate with that idea, you trying to figure out how you can get over here. You trying to figure out how I could make this next connection. You're trying to figure out how I can get this network to really start working for me. But what you don't understand sometimes is that you're trying to get a big foundation when you're still living small. It doesn't mean you're simple. It just merely means you need to understand what you still need to obtain. Because if you want to see the game, you must attain. Now, if you want to obtain, guess what? You got to get to that foundation. As I told you before, that's funny. I said, do you remember your first place? If you remember that, then you'll know there was a process. There is a level of stair steps that it takes to get from this little place right here. That little Garlow that somebody decided to turn into a garage, take that garage and turn it into a home, and I lived in it. And I'm going to brag for it right now just for a second, because guess what? Now, back in my day, I think the first place I paid, that place that I stayed, I paid. Now, don't y'all talk about me. If I see this in the feed, I'm coming after you. My rent was $180 a month. Tell no one, okay? Y'all like, what? I'd rather take that. Give me that. Okay, you can have it. But the bottom line is this. When you start on small foundations, I said you can live big with a small foundation. Why is that? Because on a small foundation, you got room to build. On a small foundation, you can understand what you really have because you can see everything. That's funny how you can have all of these houses and no one to occupy them. Huh? It's funny how you can have all of these homes out here and there's no one to occupy them. Why? Because the foundation may be just a little too big. But if you begin with the small foundation, you see the process of development because you also understand the process of elimination. Because listen, that's funny because I may not be able to afford this $180 house a month back then, but you know what? The job that I had supported where I lived. The job that I had supported what I needed. The job that I had supported everything that I was trying to do. Mental real estate, y'all better wake up today. Because I'm trying to help somebody with that idea. I'm trying to help somebody understand that development, that process, that piece that you need that's just been missing a little too long, and you're wondering why. You're going to all these conferences. You're wondering why you're making all these connections with the right people. And you're wondering why there's not anybody really giving you the opportunity or the chance, because a lot of times what we don't get in the midst of all of that is that our foundation may be set a little too big, but we may be living just a little too small. Because I want everybody to get something today. Don't be ashamed of where you came from. And don't forsake humble beginnings. Don't be ashamed where you came from, but don't forsake humble beginnings, because this is what I love about it. Because just as I learned how to manage myself in this converted garage, and I lived there for about 4 years, Lord knows I'd have probably stayed there if people wasn't breaking in my house. But the fact is, I had to live there. And because I chose to live there, I made the most out of it. Listen to me. Take care of what you have so you can find out what you're going to have. Take care of what you had so you can understand when it comes to your time what you're going to have. If you want to see something better, if you want to see something better in your life, take care of the things you got. That's funny because I'd rather take care of the things that I have than forsake the things that I don't. Because the bottom line is this. If you forsake what you got, you're going to get what you forsake. Let me say this again. If you forsake what you got, you're going to get what you forsake. Now, what does that mean? Mental real estate. I'm glad you asked. The fact of the matter is this. How many times did we skip past that step only to realize at some point in our life, we had to go right back and find that step we missed? Uh-oh. Am I talking to someone today? How many times have we decided that I'm going to move ahead, and you know what? I know I was supposed to do X and Y, but I need to get to Z. I knew I was supposed to go C and B, but I need to get to A. And we hopped right over it. And we thought we was going to make it. We thought we was going to get there. But the reality of it is, in life, there are no shortcuts. In mentality, there are no shortcuts. In the way that you think and the way you want to move forward, there are no shortcuts. What is there for you is there for you. But listen, you will take, I'm not asking your permission. I'm giving you a directive. You will take the necessary steps to see through where you're trying to be. Because I said it already. If you don't get it, listen, if you don't understand what you've forsaken, you're going to get what you forsake. It's going to come for you. Because at some point, that's funny how we'll mess up in school. We'll mess up on the job. And guess what happens when you mess up the work? Guess what happens when you mess up the work? You got to go back and you got to correct it and you got to do it again. So it's like they used to say, it's better to measure twice and cut once. Do you hear what I'm saying to you today? Because mental real estate is about to shift your perspective, because there's too many things we got to get to. There's too many places we're supposed to be. There's too many connections we're supposed to make. But how are we getting there? Where was your first place? Because if you can remember what that first place was like, you're going to remember what that place looked like. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. The things we had to go through to be where we at right now. But let me tell you something. Here's the sad reality is there's a lot of people that don't want to take that journey. There's a lot of people that don't understand the walk of life that they have to go through to attain the level that they want to see themselves at. Now here it is. That's funny how people would rather go into a job and make $30 an hour and they haven't proven a thing. Now, the only person who will not understand and who will not see what we're talking about is the person that's getting that $30 an hour. Isn't it something how the person who's been sitting behind you for the last 10 years is barely making $22 an hour or even $13 an hour, watches you walk in the door and take a job that they worked so hard to attain, but they didn't do it the same way? Huh? How does that make you feel when I say, where was your first place? Do you remember your first place? Because it could be that very same job that you talk about right now, that you see somebody else coming in and acting like they know everything. But let me ask you a question. How many times has somebody come in that job making more money than you and you the one had to train them? Uh-oh. You had to train them? Me? You? Really? Why is that? You paid them to know what they're supposed to know, but yet still, I got to be the one to train them. Why? Because I have the valuable foundation that they need. And you know it too. So don't put a price on it. When I talk to you about what was your first house, do you remember your first place? They don't understand where you come from because they can never see where you're going. That's funny, because if I understood where you came from, maybe that helps me understand why you're going this direction. But people fail to realize a lot of times in real life, in the mental real estate, in your mindset, when we're talking about where you came from, remember your first place. Why would I tell you to remember that? Because now you can pull that line. You can follow the breadcrumbs. You can see where it came from and you understand where it's going to, because all you got to do is follow the trail. Because if you see the trail, it becomes evident. But when I said follow the trail, remember what I said. Just because you have a big foundation doesn't mean you're going to live large. You may live very small. But you know what also happens? Just as you follow the trail from coming from nothing to going just a little bit and moving into something and understanding how to get a little bit more. And now you understand how to build what you got. You're following the trail. But the same way with the foundation, it doesn't get it that you at some point skip some steps that you're going to have to repeat. You're going to have to re-step. You're going to have to go back just a little bit, because I can't allow you to move as far as you want to go until you understand the trail that was blazed for you to get where you at. So sometimes, I'm saying sometimes, that huge foundation has to walk itself back just a little bit to understand the process that they came from, to understand where they're going to. Now, this is Mental Real Estate with Dr. Michael Freeland, giving you some nuggets today because I want to help somebody be able to grow, to be able to not only grow, but know. Because I remember that first place, and I done told y'all how much rent I done paid. Somebody better tell me about their first place in this feed today. I didn't put myself on a chopping block, but you know what? I do it every week. Why? Because it is the perspective of your mentality that I need to reach. I have to build into it through life applications, because your life is your application, and your application is really going to build into what you do. But I want somebody to get something today, because I want to make it very clear to every single person out there then when we're talking about that foundation, we're talking about your first place, how small it was, how dirty it was, how people didn't appreciate it, how they didn't respect it. But you know what's something? Is that you can remember that, your first place. And you know what? Let me tell you something about the pride of having your first place. Because people will not accept it. People will not understand. Why would you ever move here? I've heard it all. Look at this place. What is this? But the fact remains, it's mine. And once you have something, you hold on to it. Because once you hold on to it, you know how to build it. Once you understand how to build it, you know how to expand. You see people all the time who get small houses and then they expand. Now, why do they expand? Because they understand the foundation that is underneath them. Set your foundation, understand how to build. Remember your first place, because it's going to give you a good look around today when you sit in your kitchen, Kim Jacobs, when you sit in your kitchen, Yolanda Shaheed, and you taking that sip of coffee or hot tea, and you just remembering those days when it wasn't like this. Now, let me tell you, whether it's sweet or not, you still remember when those days were not like this. It's something to behold the tracks of life, because the tracks of life will show you all that you have been through. The tracks of life will show you everything you've come through. The tracks of life will show you all of the pain that you have suffered. The facts of life will show you the position you're in right now. It didn't come from just nothing. It came from somewhere. It was generated from somebody somewhere that poured something into you that got you motivated to do something more about the life that you live. So do not forsake your first place, because your first place led to everything that you've done to this point, to where you at right now. I ain't just talking about your job. I ain't just talking about where you live. I'm talking about your mentality. I'm talking about the places you've grown from. I'm talking about the places you came from. I'm talking about the places you let go of. I'm talking about the things that you attached yourself to. I'm talking about the things that have really built a foundation that you can now stand on and be proud of, because it's your mental real estate. Hey, I'm Dr. Michael Freeland. I want to hop in for just a minute and talk to you guys a little bit about that thing called the first place and the foundation you sit on. Because I'm telling you, man, you don't want to be that person that has huge foundation, but yet still live small. But if you take that small foundation, sometimes I just need 20 feet. Just give me enough room to move my elbows and watch me work. And now you can sit back and remember that first place, because it takes you there, don't it? So God bless you all. Let me shout some people out before I get out of here. But I thank you so much for taking your time to understand a little bit more about Monday Mental Real Estate, because this is very powerful work we're doing. And I know all of you have contributed and are continuing to contribute to life and society around you. Let's keep this thing moving. We're not done yet. Dr. Michael Freeland right here in the seat once again. And I can't wait to see you next week to do this once more. Let's keep it going. All right, Tafroza. All right. That's my sister all the way over in Kenya. How you doing? Thanks for hopping in. I see my brother Isaac. Been a long time, brother. Good to see you. And listen, Kim Jacobs is one special lady. If you don't know, tune into her show. Let me say this. Tune into her show. She's powerful. She brings dynamic speakers. She gives helpful information. She helps you to understand the life that you live and the life that you give. Kim Jacobs is truly a pioneer in the social media world. You make sure that you go check her out, because she is someone you don't want to miss. Yolanda Shaheed is always one of my biggest supporters of Monday Mental Real Estate and mental real estate as a whole. Thank you for being in here. William Smith, my brother, what's going on? Good to see you already. This is what we're doing. We keeping this thing moving, because it is too important to let it go. My brother Antoine Montooth, what's going on, brother? I see you all the way in PA doing it. I can't wait to talk to you. I've missed you, my brother. My good assistant Jesse Nyambu, all the way in Kenya, who makes it happen for the whole country of Kenya and all the countries of East Africa. Thank you for being in. We got so much work to do. We're going to get to this business at hand. And last but not least, in case I missed anyone, the love of my life, my heartbeat, the one that I call the inspiration of what I do, my mother, Brenda Redmond. Mama, I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I always appreciate your presence. I thank God for you, and I thank God that everyone is doing well. So have yourself a great Monday, a safe week. And remember, the perspective of your mental real estate, because somebody's going to need exactly what you got. So God bless you. God bless where you came from. God bless that first place, because we came from somewhere, didn't we? We're going to begin and continue what we started. Let's see this thing through. God bless you all. Take care of yourselves and have yourself a great day. And we'll talk soon. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.